There's an old saying people used to repeat in these mountains. Folks would say it like it was a simple piece of advice, but everyone understood what it really meant. They would say, all you need to know are the 3 R's: reading, writing, and Route 23. And if you grew up in Appalachia, you knew exactly what they were talking about. Because for thousands of mountain families, Route 23 became the road that carried them away from home. Meaning, if you could read a little, write your name, and find your way to Route 23 heading north, you could leave the mountains and make a living somewhere else. And for many families, that road became the path out of these hills. In the Appalachian Mountains, there's a quiet moment before morning when the fog settles deep in the hollows. And that's when old stories feel closest. Stories passed through families. Stories never written down. Stories the mountains have kept for generations. Welcome to where the fog settles. For most of Appalachian history, people didn't travel very far from home. Families lived in the same holler for generations. Grandparents, parents, children, aunts, uncles, and cousins, often all within the same walking distance of each other. The mountains weren't just scenery, they were home. Home in the deepest sense of the word. Every bend of the road held a memory. Every ridge carried a story someone in the family could tell. But slowly, beginning in the early 1900s and growing ever stronger after the Second World War, something began to change. People started leaving. Not a few at a time, but in waves. In parts of eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia, there was one highway that seemed to carry that movement more than any other. U.S. Route 23. It wound its way through the mountains, past small towns, past the coal camps, past the same front porches where people had rocked in the evening air for generations. And then it kept going north. And once you took it, things didn't stay the same. Towards places like Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, Toledo, and Muncie. Cities where the factory whistles blew before the sun rose, and machines ran long into the night. Places where a man could earn more in a week than a miner might make in a month. So families packed up what little they owned. Suitcases, cardboard boxes, everything had to fit into the back seat of one car. And then they drove north. Coal had once promised steady work in the mountains. For a long time, it delivered. People didn't leave just because they wanted to, but machines began replacing miners. Jobs disappeared. Coal camps grew quieter. Stores closed. And when a man couldn't find work close to home, he had to look somewhere else. So word began spreading through the hills. There's work in Ohio. Factories are hiring in Detroit. Steel mills are paying good money in Cleveland. And before long, Route 23 became known by another name. Some people called it the Hillbilly Highway. People along the road said you could stand beside Route 23 on a Sunday evening and watch the migration in real time. Car after car heading north, packed with everything a family owned. Mattresses tied to the roof, suitcases in the back seat, and a quiet hope that somewhere up that road, a better life might be waiting. But leaving the mountains was never easy. People didn't just leave land. They left family. Grandmothers rocking slowly on front porches. Neighbors who had known them since they were children. Church bells that had rung for every wedding and funeral for as long as they could remember. Many said goodbye with quiet promises. We'll be back someday. Some were. Many weren't. When Appalachian families arrived in those northern cities, they often settled close together. Neighborhoods filled with people who spoke the same way, cooked the same food, and told the same stories. You could walk down certain streets in Detroit or Chicago and hear the accents that sounded just like Eastern Kentucky or Southern West Virginia. People carried the mountains with them, in their music, in their cooking, in the way they still sat outside in the evenings, talking with neighbors as the day cooled down, just like they had done back home. But even with steady work, many people carried a quiet homesickness. They missed the mountains. They missed the sounds of the crickets after dark. They missed the way the fog settles softly in the hollers in early morning. And more than anything, they missed the feeling that comes from living somewhere where every hill and every creek holds a memory. But the mountains have a way of following people, even after they leave. Not in a way most folks would notice, usually in small, quiet ways. I once heard a story about my own papa. It was before he left for the war, and this was during World War II. He did something simple, but so meaningful. He took a small matchbox and he filled it with a bit of dirt from the holler where he grew up in West Virginia. Just a pinch of that mountain soil, something to carry with him. And he kept that matchbox with him through the war, through the long distance from home, through the uncertainty of battle, through all the places the war would carry him. And when the war was finally over, he brought that same little matchbox of dirt back home with him. Now, some people might find that a little strange, but in the mountains, people understand things like that, because the place where you come from is not always just somewhere you've lived. Sometimes it's because something you carry with you, even when the road takes you far away. Folks from these hills have always understood something simple. When someone leaves home, they often take a small piece of it with them, not because they plan to stay gone, but because deep down, they hope one day the road will lead them back. There's another saying I hear people say about the mountains. They say, you can take the man out of the mountain, but you can't take the mountain out of the man. And for many families that once drove north on Route 23, that still rings true, even today. There are people across Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois whose parents or grandparents once packed their cars and followed that road out of these hills. And sometimes, when they hear an old mountain story or a sound of someone speaking in that familiar Appalachian way, it brings something back, a feeling the road north never quite took away, because no matter how far people traveled, a part of these mountains always traveled with them. The old saying people used to repeat in the mountains: all you need to know are the 3 R's: reading, writing, and Route 23. At the time, it meant something simple. If you could read a little, write your name, and find your way to that highway heading north, you might be able to build a life somewhere beyond these mountains. And for many families, that road carried them far away from home. But the truth is, Route 23 didn't just carry people out of Appalachia. It carried Appalachian people into the rest of the world, into factory towns, into neighborhoods where the mountain accent never quite faded from city streets, into families where the old stories were still told long after the hills were out of sight. Because no matter how far the road had carried them, people from the mountains always seemed to take something with them. A recipe, a story, a way of speaking, and every now and then, even a small matchbox filled with dirt from the holler. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear those mountains today, in voices, in memories, in stories passed down across generations, all because of a road people once followed north, reading, writing, and Route 23. And somehow, the mountains still found their way home again. Because no matter how far that road had carried people, a little piece of these mountains always seemed to follow them. Before we go tonight, I want to ask the folks sitting on the porch with me something. Did you or someone in your family ever leave the mountains and head north on Route 23? Or maybe go somewhere else? Where did you or they start out? And where did the road take you or them? And did you or did they ever find their way back home? You see, I've heard a lot of stories like that over the years. Some folks carried a little piece of home with them. Maybe a rock from a creek where they grew up, or even a little dirt in a matchbox like my pawpaw did, or even a little piece of coal. So if you got a story like that in your family, I'd really enjoy hearing about it. You can leave it down below in the comments. I swear I'll read every one. Until the mountains speak again, walk gently. Listen for what lingers, where the fog settles.